Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Ches, Daf 8, Masechta Hagiga. Friends, the first part of today's Daf, we kind of continued discussing some of the questions that we may have had at the yesterday with regards to like how come we specifically singled out the first day of Yom Tov of Pesach in the context of the Hagiga, and how come Beis Hillel said that you're allowed to use money of maaser sheni for the Hagiga, but isn't it a chova? Shouldn't it have to be from Chulin? So we're going to start off by answering these questions, and then we get involved in sort of if you can mix together Chulin money with other kinds of money when it comes to these korbanos, and then we get up to a situation with how exactly to spend money on these different korbanos. Should you buy more expensive olas, more expensive shlamim? So we're gonna get involved in that. Friends, we're on Daf Zayin and Beis, 3 lines to the bottom of the page. My shna Chagigas Yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach. How come specifically we're saying we're taught right yesterday in the Mishnah? So what did we say? We said that Yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach Beishami Omrim Min HaChulin Beis Hillel Omrim Min HaMaaser. That when it comes to the Korban Hagiga of the first day of Pesach, so Beis Shammai says it comes from Chulin, Beis Hillel says it comes from Maaser. The question is, what's special about Pesach? So Mashna Chagigas Yom Tov Harishon Shel Pesach, Omer Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, Hakol Mashmalan, it's letting us know Chagigas Chamisha Osir in, Chagigas Arba Osir Lo, that the Korban Hagiga of the 15th, i.e. of the first day of Pesach, needs to come from Chulin. However, the Chagigas Yudalit, friends, does anybody remember what the Chagigas Yudalit is? The Chagigas Yudalit was a Korban Hagiga that was offered, that was eaten together at the Pesach Seder, right? That the Korban Pesach had to be eaten ala sova, had to be eaten, you already had to be satisfied, had to be full at the time that you eat the Korban Pesach. And let's say you have a lot of people who sort of are connected to the Korban Pesach, right? Because of course you'd get a group together to purchase and eat a Korban Pesach. So let's say that it was a big group. So there's not going to be a lot of meat for everybody. Everyone's going to have a little bit of meat. So how are they going to be satisfied? Well, you bring an additional Korban called the Chagigas Yudalit, and that Korban is what everybody gets filled up on. So now, what we're saying is that that's what's called the Chagigas Yudalit. So the Chagigas Tesvav, the Chagiga of the first day of Pesach, needs to come from Chulin. However, the Chagigas Yudal, the Chagiga that you eat at the Pesach Seder to fill everybody up with meat, that does not have to come from Chulin. Alma Kasavar, so we see that Chagigas Arba Osir Lav D'Oraisa, so it must be that the Chagigas Arba Osir, this Chagiga that you eat at the Seder, is not Midoraisa, because if it was Midoraisa, then it would be a Chova, and if it's a Chova, so then it would have to be from Chulin. It would be an obligation, it would have to be from Chulin. Omer Mar, we said Beis Hillel Omrim, says Beis Hillel Min HaMaaser. Beis Hillel says that you could bring a Korban Chagiga from maaser sheni. Amai, how come you're allowed to bring a Korban Chagiga from maaser sheni? Davar shebechovu, v'chol davar shebechovu einu ba'el min HaChulin. An obligatory offering has to be from Chulin. Amar Ula b'tofel. So Ula says, well, Beis Hillel is not saying that you can bring a Korban Chagiga entirely from maaser sheni, but you can mix together maaser sheni with Chulin and together purchase a Korban Chagiga for the first day of Pesach. Of Pesach and, for the first day of Yom Tov. Chizkiya Amen, now says the Gemara, according to Chizkiya, Toflin behema levehema vein Toflin maos lemos, that you can't join together money, you can't, buy a Korban Chagiga for $100, 50 of it is Chulin and 50 of it is maaser sheni. You cannot do that according to Chizkiya. What you can do is that the first animal that you offer, right, is going to be from Chulin. And Rashi says something very interesting. He says, that all of the shlamim that you're going to be bringing on the first day of Yom Tov they're all going to be considered chagigas. Right? Yet nonetheless, only the first one's going to have to be from Chulin. But says Chizkiya, the subsave, if let's say you have a lot of people that are eating at your house, so you're going to offer a number of these chagigas, so only the first one has to be Chulin, but the rest of them can be purchased with maaser sheni money. So, we see that according to Chizkiya, you could mix animals, right? Meaning as long as the first one is from Chulin, the rest of them can be from maaser sheni. But you cannot purchase, let's say you would say, well, why don't I just pool all the money together and buy one really big animal that could feed everybody? But that big animal is going to be purchased with money that's somewhat maaser sheni and somewhat chulin. Says Chizkiah, you cannot do that, right? Chizkiah says, Chizkiah toflin behema levehema, you could mix together. If you have multiple animals, you could have one of them chulin and the rest maaser sheni, no problem. Vein toflin mos lemos, but you cannot join together and pool together money, some of which is chulin and some of which is maaser sheni, that you cannot do. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan toflin mos lemos, that the opposite, punkt fakert, you can mix together and pool together money, some of which is chulin and some of which is maaser sheni, vein toflin behema levehema, but you cannot bring multiple animals, some of which are chulin and some of which are from maaser sheni. Tanya kavasi the Chizkiah, Tanya kavasi the Rabbi Yochanan, says the Gemara that we could bring brises in support of both Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan. Tanya kavasi the Rabbi Yochanan, here's the brise that supports Rabbi Yochanan, that you're allowed to mix, that you're allowed to pool together money. Misas mlamich adamevi chovasu min achulin, that when the pasuk says, what does it say? It says misas nidvas yodcho, that from your pledge, from the pledge of your hand, and we say that misas, the word misas means that you're allowed to that you have to bring from chulin. Some of they learn out from misas that it dafka means that you have to bring out that the korban has to be from chulin. And says the Brisa, and how do you know that if you want to mix together that the money won't entirely be from chulin, but might have some maaser sheni money there as well? The pasuk says, as Hashem your God has blessed you, and however He has blessed you. Right, whether it's with chulin money, whether it's maaser sheni money, all that money is fine. It can be pooled together to purchase the animal. Tane kavose the Chizkiah. Now here's a brayse that supports Chizkiah. Misas mlam chadam mevi chasu v'chavasu min achulin. So again, we're saying that when the pasuk says misas nidvas yodcha, it means that yadavka have to bring your obligation from chulin. Beis Shammai omrim says Beis Shammai yom rishon min achulin. Mikan ve'elach min maaser, says Beis Shammai, that the first day you have to bring the korban from chulin, but from then on you can use money of maaser sheni. Beis Hillel says Beis Hillel achila rishona min chulin, that the first animal that you eat, or at least that's how we're understanding it now, that the first animal that you eat has to come from chulin. Mikan ve'elach, but after the first animal, min maaser, you can use money of maaser sheni. And all the rest of it is a Pesach. A person can even, for shalmei simcha, use maaser behema. That, if you had animals, and, every 10th animal he has to bring as a korban in Yerushalayim, so you could bring all the animals on Pesach, and then use that for shalmei simcha. So we see that in this brisa we're saying that when you could mix together chulin and maaser sheni, it's talking about different animals. As Beis Hillel says in this brisa, the first animal has to be from chulin, but the rest of the animals could be from maaser sheni. B'yom tov my time low. How come? Asks the brisa. Right. So how come we said that you're allowed to on Chol HaMoed use maaser behema, but not on Yom Tiv? So Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi tum asi la'asuri b'Yom Tiv. Well, because we don't want you to actually separate the animals as maaser on Yom Tiv. V'yev shela aser b'Yom Tiv mishum sakarta. And you're not allowed to actually separate the maaser behema on Yom Tiv because you're going to mark each one with red paint. Right? That every 10th one you sort of mark as with red paint as being for maaser behema, and you can't do that on Yom Tiv. So therefore, you don't offer maaser behema on Yom Tiv because we're concerned that you might actually separate the maaser behema, which would involve red paint, and we don't want that. My mashma dai misas lishna de chulinu. How do you know that misas is a reference to chulin, to unconsecrated money? The Chsiv, as the pasuk says at the very end, I think it's taka the last pasuk in the Megillah, it says Vayosam melech Achashverosh mas al haaretz, that the king Achashverosh made a tax for the land, and that tax, of course, was from chulin, money from unconsecrated money. Yisrael yotzin yidei chavasim b'nedarim u'nedavis. We said that non-Kohanim would be allowed to be, they could be fulfill the obligation for shalmei simcha with the sort of nidarim and nidavis pledges that they made throughout the year to bring korbanos. You shall rejoice on your festival. L'rabos kol minei smachos l'simcha. You rejoice and be happy in any kind of way that you can. From here the rabbi said, Yisrael yotzin idei chavasim b'nidarim v'nidavis, that non-Kohanim, they can fulfill their obligation of being happy with pledges, right? Nidarim, nidavos, maaser behema. Kohanim, priests, bechatos v'asham, right? If people had offered guilt offerings and sin offerings, and the Kohanim get the meat, uvibchor v'chaz v'shok, as well as the firstborn animals that were given to the Kohanim to offer as sacrifices, v'chaz v'shok, the breast and the leg that they get from shlomim. Yachol ap ba'ofus uv'nachas, is it possible that even with birds and flower offerings, tamalom v'samachta b'chagecha, no, it says you should be rejoicing in your festival. Mishe Hagiga ba mehem, right? V'samachta b'chagecha, you should be rejoicing b'chagecha, which is like Hagiga, right? Only the kinds of animals that you can actually use as a korban Hagiga, as a shalmei Hagiga, those are the animals that you use for shalmei simcha. Yatzu elu she'ein Hagiga ba mehem, to the exclusion of a fagel, of a bird, and the flower offering, that you can't bring a Hagiga from those. Rav Ashi Amar, that we learn out that you can only use sort of animals for shalmei simcha, because it says v'samachta, you should be happy. Yatzu elu she'ein ben simcha, you don't get super happy by eating a bird or by eating flour, but you can get a geschmack from eating animals. Rav Ashi, what does it do with bichagecha? Fine, so he uses v'samachta to say that you have to actually be happy when you're eating these animals and not just birds and flour. But what does it do with chagecha? So Rav Daniel bar Katina, Rav Daniel bar Katina, Rav, in the name of Rav, minayin she'en nosen noshim b'moed. How do we know that, right, that we don't get married on Chol HaMoed? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'samachta b'chagecha v'lo be'ishtecha. That you'll be happy with your with the festival and not with your wife. We saw taka in Masechta, what was it? Moed Katan? What were there before Moed Katan? Friends, what was before Moed Katan? What was them before Moed Katan? Megillah? No, I feel like maybe it was Moed Katan. We learned, right. Even Mar b'simcha b'simcha, there was that whole sugya. We saw a few reasons why you don't get married on Chol HaMoed. Friends, says the Mishnah, a fellow has a lot of people who are a lot of dependents, a lot of people who need a lot of mouths to feed. But he doesn't have so much money. Maybe so he invests more of the money that he has on shlomim, because shlomim, he gets some of the, a lot of the meat goes to him, as opposed to olos. An ola is entirely burnt on the mizbeach, so he can't actually feed anybody with an ola. So therefore, he offers more shlamim and less olas. If a fellow has a lot of money, but not a lot of mouths to feed, maybe olos, merubos, v'shlam muatin, so then he offers more olas that go entirely on the mizbeach, and less shlamim, because he doesn't need so much meat. Zev is emuat, if he's got little mouths to feed and little resources. Al zeh nemar, it says about this, ma kesef, shtei kesef, right? We had learned earlier that a shlomim, that the shalmei Hagiga is 2 silver coins, and the olas is 1 silver coin. So that's sort of, if you don't have so much money, you don't have so many people to feed, so then you can stick with the minimum amounts. Zev is Merubim, he's got a lot of money and he's got a lot of mouths to feed. Al Zanemar, it says about this situation, Ish k'mat nos yodo, kivikas Hashem elokecha asher nosan loch, that each person, based on what he's able to give, as is the blessing of God. Now, Frekti Gemara, Shlomim Merubim me'echa maisi, haleisle. Now, Frekti Gemara, 1 second. We just said a fellow who doesn't have a lot of money, but he's got a lot of mouths to feed, so he should bring a lot of korban shlomis. How is he supposed to afford to bring a lot of korban shlomis? We just said he doesn't have a lot of money. So Rav Chizda says of Chizda, Tofel umevi par gadol. So says of Chizda, well, he could, sure, maybe he doesn't have so much money, but he can use his maaser sheni money as well, and join that together with the chulin, and he can use that to buy a big animal that he can then use, offer as a korban shlamim, and use the meat to feed all the people. Now Rav Sheshes says to Rav Chisda, Amru toflin behema levehema, that we say that you can sort of have some animals from chulin and some animals from maaser sheni. Meaning, we said, right, our Mishnah had said that if he doesn't have a lot of money, but he's got a lot of mouths to feed, so he could bring a lot of shlamim. How's he supposed to bring a lot of shlamim? He doesn't have a lot of money. So says Rav Chisda, well, he could, he has maaser sheni money that he needs to spend in Jerusalem, so he can mix that together with the chulin money that he needs for the shlamim, and he could, pool them all together and buy a bigger animal and feed the people that way. Now says Rav Sheshes to Rav Chisda, but Amru toflin behema levehema. They said that you're allowed to kind of have one animal from chulin and the rest from maaser sheni. Now, Maika Amarle, the Gemara wants to say, what exactly is Rav Sheshes responding to Rav Chisda? If you want to say that, well, this is what Rav Sheshes is saying to Rav Chisda. Hari Amru toflin behema levehema, that you're allowed to, have one animal be chulin and the other animals be maaser sheni, aval lo ma'os l'ma'os, but not money. You wouldn't be able to pool together money, some of which is maaser sheni and some of which is chulin. V'leimele ein toflin ma'os l'ma'os. But if that's the case, then let Rav Sheshes say directly to Rav Chisda that you can't pool together money, some of which is chulin and some of which is maaser sheni. But he doesn't say that. He goes in a roundabout way and says you're allowed to mix and match individual korbanos, implying that you're not allowed to pool together maaser sheni and chulin. But why doesn't he just say directly you're not allowed to pull together maaser sheni and chulin? Ella hachi omerle. Rather, this is what Rav Sheshes is saying to Rav Chisda. Hari amru af toflin behema levehema. What Rav Sheshes is saying to Rav Chisda, he's saying that not only can you pool together money, but in addition, you can also have one animal be chulin and other animals be from maaser sheni money. Command lo kechizkiya udlo Reb Yochanan. Affect the Gemara, but if that's the case, that's like neither Rav Chizkiya nor Reb Yochanan, right? Reb Yochanan had said that you're allowed to pull together money, but you're not allowed to mix and match animals. Chizkiya said you're dafka allowed to mix and match animals, but you're not allowed to pull together money. Nobody says like what we're suggesting Rav Sheshes is saying, which is that you're allowed to pull together money and you're also allowed to mix and match animals. So v'chitema amarayu de pligi masnaiselo pligi. And if you want to suggest, well, sure, neither Reb Yochanan nor Chizkiya will say like what Rav Sheshes is suggesting, right? That both Reb Yochanan and Chizkiya both say, either you could pull together money or you could mix and match korbanos, right? Kilu Chizkiya says you could mix and match korbanos but not money. Reb Yochanan says davka money but not animals. But maybe we'll suggest, but the Brisa nonetheless say you could do both, right? The Brisa that said that you could mix and match animals also would assume that you can also pull together money. And Rav Sheshes is saying like that Brisa. But one second, but that Brisa, that second Brisa that says that the first eating comes from Chulin, sounds like it has to entirely come from Chulin, and you wouldn't be able to use money that was pooled together from maaser sheni. So my achila rishona shir dmei achila rishona min achulin. No, what it means is that the within the first meal, right, the amount that is possible, the amount that is necessary for the first eating, so then that needs to come from chulin. But anything above and beyond that amount, right? I don't know. Let's say a person eats. I don't know, what does a person need to eat already? So I don't know, maybe like one piece of meat or something. So that would have that amount would have to come from Chulin. But after that, anything else that they're serving could already come from maaser sheni. So therefore, we want to suggest that according to that brisa, it would be acceptable to sort of mix and match both money as well as animals with Chulin and maaser sheni. Omar Ula, Omar Rish Lakish says Ula in the name of Rish Lakish. Hifrish eser be'emis lechagigaso. So if you have a fellow and he set aside 10 animals for his Korban Chagiga. Now, Korban Chagiga has to be offered on the first day of Yom Tov. You can't offer a Korban Chagiga on the second. If you offered a Korban Chagiga on the first day of Yom Tov, you cannot also offer a Korban Chagiga on the second day of Yom Tov of the festival, because that would be Bal Tosef, right? The Mishnah is only the mitzvah is to offer a Chagiga on the first day of Yom Tov. Okay, if you didn't do it, so you can make it up the next day, fine. But if you did it on the first day of Yom Tov, then you can't do it again. It's a one-day thing. So Amr Ula says Ula, Amr Rish Lakish says Rish Lakish, if it's Esr Behemis l'Chagiga, so if a fellow set aside 10 animals for his Korban Chagiga, Hikriv Chamish b'Yom Tov Rishon, if he offered 5 of them on the first day of Yom Tov, Chozer Makiv Chamish b'Yom Tov Sheni, nonetheless he's able to offer the remaining 5 on the next day of the festival. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan came in Shapasak Shuv Eino Makiv. Says Rabbi Yochanan, look, once he stopped, wherever he stopped, he doesn't offer any more. So Kilu says Rabbi Yochanan, look, if on the first day of Yom Tov he offered 5, so then he's not going to offer the remaining 5, because we have to be concerned about Bal Tosef. Amr Reb Abba, says Reb Abba, V'lo Plige. And they actually don't argue, they agree. Kan bistam, kan b'mefarish. So it depends if he was explicit about his intention or not. Kilu, if he specifically said that he's setting aside these 10 animals to be a Korban Chagiga, well, if that's the case, it's clear that his intention is that he's going to offer it as a Korban Chagiga, right, with the intention to offer it on right, his intention is to offer it as a Korban Chagiga on the first day. Then Memela, whatever was left over that he didn't have a chance to offer on the first day, so he can sort of do tashlum, and he could sort of make up for the fact that he didn't offer the remaining 5 on the first day. He could offer them on the on another day. But if he was just, his intention was not explicit, so then we have to be concerned about Bal Tosef. Now, Haistam, Hey Chidami. Now, what exactly are we talking about when we say that he didn't have specific intention? Ilema Deleka shows Bayom Likariv. If we're going to say that, well, we ran out of time on the first day to offer the remaining 5, so therefore we're going to offer them the next day. But if that's the case, the reason why we didn't offer on the first day is not, is specifically because they ran out of time. But he did intend to offer them all on the first day. Well, maybe it's because he didn't have anybody to eat them. But then again, But then again, the reason why he didn't offer it, the remaining 5, is because there was nobody to eat it. But, we're not concerned that when he offers it the next day, it's Bal Tosef. It's just because he didn't have a chance, you didn't have the ability to do it the previous day. So it's talking about where there was still time in the day to offer the animals, and there were people to eat them. And from the fact that even though there were people to eat it, and even though it was time to offer the animals, he did not offer them. Well, then clearly he's leaving them over to continue offering a Korban Chagiga the next day, which is an issue of Bal Tosef, and that would not be allowed. This taka makes sense. The Chiyasa Ravin, that when Ravin says that when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amr Reb Yochanan, he said the name of Reb Yochanan, Hifresh Eser Behemis l'Chagigaso, that if a fellow separated 10 animals for his Korban Chagiga, Hikriv Chamish b'Yom Tov Rishon, Chozer Makiv Chamish b'Yom Tov Sheni, that if he offered 5 of them on the first day, he can offer the remaining 5 on the next day. Kashina Adadi. And we're seeing that Rabbi Yochanan is contradicting himself. On the one hand, right, earlier when we said the machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish said that if you offered 5 the first day, you could offer 5 the next day. Rabbi Yochanan is the one who said, Rabbi Yochanan said, no, if you offered 5 on the first day, you cannot offer the remaining 5 the next day. And yet over here, Ravin is quoting Rabbi Yochanan as saying that you can offer the remaining 5 the next day. So Elav Shmamina kan bistam kan b'mefarish. So we see that Rabbi Yochanan, it depends if he was explicit with his intention or not. If he was explicit with his intention that he's bringing these 10 korbanos for a korban chagiga, and that he wants to offer them on the first day. So whatever he didn't get to on the first day, so he could offer the next day. But if he didn't have a specific intention, then we have to be concerned that if he offers the animals the next day, then it's a concern about Bal Tosef. Then we have to be concerned that he's adding on to the mitzvah in a way that is not allowed. Itmar Nami was also stated, Amr of Shem Bar Abba, Amr of Yochanan, Shem Bar Abba, the name of Yochanan, Lo Shanu Ella, Shelo Gomar. when we say that he's not allowed to offer it on the next day, so that is only when he didn't finish. But if he finished choser or makriv, then he's allowed to offer them the next day. My gomer, what does it mean that he finished or not? If it means that he finished the korbanos, my makriv, he finished the korbanos, then what else is there to offer? That's only talking about when that day did not end. But if the day ended, if there was no time to offer the korbanos, then you'd be allowed to offer them the next day. Friends, that was the Ches of Masechta Hagiga. So first we started off by explaining kind of some open questions that we had from yesterday, which was how come specifically when we're talking about the Hagiga and that it has to come from Chulin, how come we're saying specifically the Hagiga on the first day of Pesach? And we said, well, it's the Hagiga of the first day of Pesach to the exclusion of the Hagigas Yudal that's eaten at the Seder. That does not have to come from Chulin. And then we asked the questions, what does it mean that according to Beis Hillel, you're allowed to offer the Korban Hagiga from maaser sheni money, but isn't it an obligation? Doesn't it have to be from Chulin? So we say it means that you can join together maaser sheni money with Chulin money, which then led into machlokas between Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan, that according to Chizkiah, you can only join together maaser sheni money and Chulin money. What that means is that actually you could join different animals. You can have an animal from Chulin and then the next animal could be from maaser sheni, but you cannot pool together maaser sheni money and Chulin money, whereas Rabbi Yochanan says the opposite. You could pool together maaser sheni money and Chulin money, but you cannot have one animal be Chulin and the other animal be maaser sheni. We then brought brises to support Rabbi Yochanan, to support Chizkiah. We then said that when it comes to shalmei simcha, a tafka has to come from meat. It can't come from birds or from flower offerings. And then we said that if you have a fellow who has a lot of mouths to feed, but he doesn't have so much money, so then he could. So he brings a lot of korbanos. The question was, so he bring a lot of shlamim. So the question was, how is he supposed to bring a lot of shlamim? So he says, this is of Chizda, it means that he could pull together some money from both Chulin as well as maaser sheni money that he needs to offer. Says Rish Lakish that in addition to pulling together, says Rav Sheshis, in addition to pulling together money, you can also, if you want, have separate animals, right? One animal Chulin, the other animal is maaser sheni. And we said that Rav Sheshis is saying that, in addition to be able to pulling together money, you can also have one animal be from Chulin, the other animals be from maaser sheni, which is like neither Rabbi Yochanan nor like Chizkiah. And then we said that if you have a fellow, we saw what seemed to be machlokas between Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, but we said that they actually agree, which is that if a fellow set aside 10 korbanos that he's going to bring as korban chagigas on the first day of Yom Tiv, so it depends. If he specifically said that he's going to bring them as chagigas on the first day of Yom Tiv, and then whatever, if he only got around to offering 5 of them, so he could offer the remaining ones the next day, we're not concerned that it looks like Baal Tosef, that he's like, saying that he's going to bring a chagiga for 2 days, even though you're really only allowed to bring it for 1 day. But if he wasn't specific that he was bringing these 10 korbanos as a chagiga for the first day, and he didn't get around to offering all 10 of them on the first day, even though there was time and there was people available to eat them, so then you would not be able to offer the remaining 5 the next day, because we have to be concerned about Baal Tosef. Friends, that was the Ches of Masechta Hagiga. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.